Is the iBUYPOWER Pro gaming PC the kind of machine that lets a weekend warrior finally play Fortnite at 1080p without stuttering? Or is it a half step that will leave you reaching for upgrades in a few months? Who should grab this box? Who would be better off putting their money toward a pre-built with a stronger GPU? And does the price make sense for someone who just wants a decent gaming rig without breaking the bank? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first started looking at entry-level gaming desktops, the biggest worry I had was ending up with a system that could run today's games but would choke on the next patch or DLC. The iBUYPOWER Pro gaming PC advertises a Ryzen 5 3600 processor, an AMD RX 560 with 2GB of VRAM, 8GB of DDR4 RAM, and a 240GB SSD. On paper that sounds like a balanced mid-range build for 1080p titles, but the real question is how those parts play together once you plug in a controller and fire up the game library you already own. Let's start with the processor. The Ryzen 5 3600 is a 6-core, 12-thread chip that still holds up well for most modern titles, especially when you're not trying to push 4K or run intensive background streaming software. In a typical gaming session, say you're dropping into a Call of Duty, Modern Warfare match, the CPU never became a bottleneck, frame time stayed consistent, and the system handled the occasional CPU-heavy moments like lobby loading without hiccup. That's a big win for anyone who wants a machine that feels responsive both in-game and when you're juggling a web browser or Discord. The graphics card, however, is where the compromise becomes clear. The RX 560 with 2GB of VRAM is essentially a budget card from a few generations back. It can comfortably push most esports titles, Valorant, Rocket League, League of Legends at high settings and stay above 60 frames per second. When you step up to more demanding AAA games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Cyberpunk 2077, you'll need to dial settings down to medium or low, and even then you'll see the 2GB VRAM limit bite on texture quality. If you're the kind of gamer who wants to explore the latest releases with visual fidelity, this GPU will feel like a ceiling you'll hit quickly. Memory is another practical point. 8GB of RAM is the minimum you'll find in new gaming PCs today, and for many current games it's just enough. The system does let you add a second stick later, but you'll need to open the case and match the speed and timings. In real-world use, I noticed a slight slowdown when swapping between a game and a browser with many tabs open, something that's easy to overlook until you actually try to multitask. If you plan to stream or run heavy mods, upgrading to 16GB is almost a requirement, not an optional tweak. Storage is where this build feels a bit dated. A 240GB SSD will fill up fast if you install a handful of modern games, each taking 3050GB. I found myself uninstalling a game after finishing a story just to make room for the next one. The good news is the motherboard includes extra SATA ports, so you can bolt a larger SSD or even a traditional HDD without any hassle. For a buyer who's comfortable moving files around and maybe adding a second drive later, that flexibility can stretch the system's usefulness. Connectivity is solid for the price. Built-in Wi-Fi means you can set it up in a dorm room or a small apartment without running Ethernet cables, and the front panel USB-C port is a nice touch for newer peripherals. The inclusion of Windows 10 Home out of the box saves you the extra step of installing an OS, which is a small but appreciated convenience for non-tech-savvy users. Now, who should actually consider this machine? If you're a casual gamer who mainly plays titles that aren't graphically intensive, enjoy indie games, or stick to the esports scene, the iBUYPOWER Pro delivers a ready-to-play experience without requiring you to tinker. The Ryzen 5 3600 gives you headroom for future game releases, and the SSD ensures quick load times, something you'll notice right away when you launch Minecraft or Stardew Valley. It also appeals to students or anyone on a limited budget who wants a desktop that can double as a workstation for school projects or light content creation. On the flip side, if you're someone who expects to run the latest AAA releases at high settings, or you're looking to stream at 1080p while gaming, you'll quickly feel the constraints of the RX 560 and the 8GB of RAM. In that scenario, you'd be better off spending a little more on